Fire up A-Push Scholars, Mr. Beamer here. I get to make a new video. The year is 2021, and I apparently have violated a lot of copyright laws, and they're coming after me, YouTube and everybody else at College Board. So they blocked my original one that I made in 2014. So I get to make a new video. I'm kind of excited about that, but I've already made the video like a couple of times, like over 25 minutes long, and that's too long. So I'm going to try to go quick, but I want to be entertaining, but I got to go quick. Stop talking. Let's go, Beamer. All right, so here we go. This is the last half of chapter 10, talking about the presidency of John Adams. Okay, yesterday we talked about Washington's presidency and the importance of Hamilton and his financial plan and some foreign policy issues. Now, the last half, talking about John Adams' presidency. Now, John Adams, not a big fan, but I am a big fan about John, is you got lucky. Your wife, Abigail, like Sunset, I love your wife, John. Abigail Adams had a heart, cared about other people, had empathy, peace, love, everything. I believe, hope. She was amazing. And like your son, I was a big fan of Quincy Adams, but he's kind of grown on me. Change over time, continuity, change over time. John Quincy Adams, I kind of liked your son. I loved your wife more. You got lucky. But however, you do have that famous quote. I can't guarantee. Say it, Beamer. All right, I'm gonna have to cut that one out. Abigail, I can't guarantee success in this war, but we can do something better. We can deserve it. Let's go. Here we go. Stop talking. It's going to be like a 15 minute. No, it's not going to be 15 minutes. We're talking about X, Y, Z affair. It sounds like I have no idea. I'm just going to get to it later. It's going to be good. Unofficial War with France. That was okay. It's important. It's okay. Ooh, I despise the Alien Sedition Act. Not good. We'll get to that. This is such great teaching. Lastly, Virginia, Kentucky resolutions. But here's the highlight. 2021. We got a new family member in A-Push. Dave Bernard, founding father. I came after him. Who is teaching this class? It's that guy. Yeah, Chris Ray. Right now. Yeah, my boy. He's off at some wedding for his sister, so fire up. We love you very much. All right, let's get into some history, family. I'm going to try to keep it under 20. Hurry up, Beamer. Stop talking. Well, I got to kind of talk to do this video. All right, John Adams. He is the second president. I got to move myself. Let's move myself over there. All right, here we go. Let's talk about John Adams. What do you got going on? All right, so the election of 1796, Washington steps aside. Teach him how to say goodbye. Say goodbye. That's why I love Washington. He knew when to be done. He said, I am done. I'm moving on with my life. Let somebody else take over. Teach them how to say goodbye. People, learn how to say goodbye. It's done. It's over. Get over it. Move on with your life. Go do something. Go golfing or something. All right. So this election had to do with John Adams, Federalist, and I kind of like Jefferson. Anyway, Jefferson versus John Adams, 1796. We have now two political parties, the Federalists and the Democrat Republicans. Contentious election between these two. So the Dem reps criticized the Federalists over what two events? Why did we have the two-party system? Do you remember? Wait time. The two events that caused the creation of the Democratic Republican Party. Number one, foreign policy was a treaty, Jay's Treaty. The second cause, the biggest cause of all the issues between the two groups, is Hamilton's bust, the Bank of the United States. All right, so I'm not going to go over review that, but that's what caused the two-party system. So Adams does win this election, a very close election in 1796. Fun fact for you, back in the 1790s, whoever finishes second, they get to be the vice president. So Jefferson is the vice president to John Adams, and they despise each other, right? But that's the way it was. It wasn't until the 12th. No. This is why you don't record at school, but you should. Mrs. Belka, I love you. It's 4:10. You should not be here, but you are an amazing person. All right. Anyway, so there's another 20 seconds that I wasted. Anyway, so the 12th Amendment to the Constitution ends that basically saying that second place finisher does not and will not be the vice president. Stop talking. Move on. All right. So John Adams, a little bit of his personality. He was a little bit too rigid, stubborn as a president. He definitely was not a compromiser, and he was kind of a little bit arrogant, but I think he had good intentions, but he definitely did not like to be made a fool, and had serious conflict with Thomas Jefferson, the Dem reps, right? But he did marry Abigail. You lucky dog, you. All right, moving on. What else? So anyway, Adams was a Federalist. Alexander Hamilton was also a Federalist, and they hated each other. Sit down, John. I'll let you watch the musical. All right. So anyway, when Adams becomes president, he's got issues with France. That is his number one problem as president, is issues with France. That's what most of this video is about. Like I said, they despise each other. You can read that quote. I don't even know what half the words mean. They hated each other. All right, let's move on then. So let's talk about his biggest event, the unofficial war with France. And so France is upset with Jay's Treaty. That was also one of the causes of the Democratic Republican Party forming. Jay's Treaty, I'm not going to review it. All I'm going to say about Jay's Treaty is that it was very pro-British. It annoyed the French. So the French, because of Jay's Treaty, start to treat the American shipping industry not fairly. So the French start to impress American ships like the British did as well, and they started to seize our defenseless ships. And so we did not like that. So Adams sends 3 Americans to France to talk about this problem of impressment. Well, fun fact for you, one of the 3 Americans that went there was John Marshall. He's later going to become a Chief Justice. John Marshall, love him. John Marshall, love. I tried to like hug him, his like boss of him, his like, and I almost got arrested. Okay, all right, but I love John Marshall. But anyway, so John Marshall, this is a waste of time. John Marshall goes to France, right? He's like, France, we need to talk, stop impressing our sailors so we can go ahead and try to move on with our friendship. Well, their approach, this is like where it gets a little bit shady. John Marshall and the 2 other Americans, while in France, are approached by 3 go-betweens, 3 unknown people, and we refer to these people as X, Y, and Z. They're like variables. We don't know what they are. But anyway, these 3 people, X, Y, and Z, basically go to Marshall and the Americans and say, listen, if you want to talk to our French foreign minister, Talleyrand, if you want to talk to our French foreign minister, you need to pay us $250,000 to talk to him. And so as being an American, the 3 said, absolutely not. Okay, we will not be bullied. We will not be paying a bribe to be able to talk to your French leader. So now we've got problems. So the 3 Americans leave France in a tizzy, if that's the word I'm looking for. They go home mad. And this incident is called the XYZ affair. And if I have time, I will try to show you a famous and actually confusing political cartoon. Maybe you want to look it up on your own. Just type in XYZ affair political cartoon. You're going to spend 20 minutes like, what am I looking at? But anyway, so this is an important event, and it causes an undeclared war with France, or also called the Quasi-War, from 1798 to 1800. And this is Adams's biggest event. XYZ affair causes the Quasi-War with France. All right, let's talk about this war. So again, military history is not too important. This war had very little, if any, like important battles. This was mostly done in the West Indies. This was mostly done on the oceans or in the Caribbean Sea. Very little, if any, land battles. Okay, so the military part, again, not too important. Americans capture 80 French ships. However, the Americans lose several hundred to the French, and so not a great war for the United States. But again, not many casualties, so not too big of an issue. The key thing is which group is happy about this war with France? Which group in America did not like the French? And it's Adams and the Federalist Party. Okay, they are happy with the war with France because, like, number one, it's war, trying to show the world that, hey, we're a legitimate country. Now, let me make a point here. This war was never declared by Congress. Okay, it was unofficial, so we kind of had this conflict with the French. It was never declared by Congress, so it's technically not a war. Actually, another war in history. Vietnam was never a war declared by Congress. They call that the Vietnam conflict. So interesting point there. All right, so let's move on then. So let's talk about this in a little more detail. So Britain, just not that important. British were actually helping us a little bit during this war because they were at war with the French as well. Now, we didn't align ourselves with the British because we never declared war, but the British did help us to some degree with the French. So anyway, by 1799, eventually, tensions are going to start to die down eventually. And so Adams sends a new minister to try to negotiate a peace. Hamilton and the other Federalists are mad at John. That's partly why Adams does not get a lot of support from the Federalists in the election of 1800. There's a little bit of Hamilton, the musical reference there as well. But anyway, so Hamilton and the Federalists are unhappy with John. Nobody likes John Adams, okay, except Abigail and probably his son John Quincy. But Hamilton and the Federalists are mad that Adams is going to try to end this conflict. So Adams does help negotiate a peace to this unofficial war. It is called the Convention of 1800 with Napoleon. And so again, it's not a treaty because it was never a war, but eventually this thing kind of dissolves away. But so that's kind of what's the important point, Beamer. Well, I'll tell you, it's what happens in America that we need to know for APUSH. Like what happens in the United States during this unofficial war, that's what's important. A couple little things here. France ends our alliance with them that we had with them in 1778. Well, I understand why they did that because we never helped the French in 1793 because of Washington's neutrality proclamation. The French were annoyed that we didn't take their side. Eventually, the American government pays the damages caused by the French during the war, as well as as a way to try to negotiate the peace better with the French. All right, here's an interesting note. So if we actually declared war with France, if the United States actually went to war, Congress declares it, it's all a big blown up thing, perhaps in 1803, what do we not get? Okay. Thankfully, Napoleon in 1803 sold this amazing piece of land to the United States to almost double the size of it. And of course, you know it as the Louisiana Purchase. The Louisiana Purchase is ours. All right, it's gone. It's a commercial. We had to be there. All right, so last thing is the unofficial war with France is Adams's greatest legacy. So the unofficial war with France is what he's known for and what happens in America, which we're going to talk about right now. All right, so the Federalist witch hunt. Ooh, witch hunt, I think of McCarthy, not a fan. So you have to know these two laws. The Alien Sedition Acts are maybe the most important thing of this topic and what Adams and the Federalists, what they do during this war with France. So important, this line. The Federalists passed these laws, these two laws, which we'll get to in a second, to minimize the power of their opposition, the Democratic Republicans. So these laws are meant to silence their enemies, okay? And that happens later in history, and it's kind of an issue throughout American history, people in charge trying to silence the minority group or their enemies. So the Alien Act said that foreigners, when they come to America, instead of being a citizen in 5 years, they now have to wait even longer. They have to wait 14 years. This is important because most of the immigrants that came to the United States were for the Democratic Republicans. They could identify more with the Dem Reps because most Dem Reps were a little bit like the poorer class, definitely farmers as well. The Federalists, think of elitists, think of powdered wigs, and kind of arrogant, pompous, kind of like Hamilton was, to be honest with you. So immigrants support the Dem Reps. So the Federalists passed this law to make it wait 9 more years, and it has to do with all about voting. If immigrants can't vote, that's better for the Federalists. Change over time or continuity. Most new immigrants voted and supported the Democrats, but not the Federalists. I already mentioned that. The other big law is the Sedition Act. This is even more important, family, and this is limiting freedom of speech in the press. So Adams and the Federalists essentially said, you cannot talk bad about the government. Let me say that again. The Sedition Act said that you cannot talk bad about the government, okay? Well, what ends up happening is that some Democratic Republican newspapers and most newspapers in the 1790s were pro-Dem Rep, okay, were pro-Jefferson. They criticized the Federalists, John Adams, and the unofficial war with France. And so now they were prosecuted, and we have some conflict that happened. Okay, so my point I want to make sure we understand is why these two laws are wrong, or especially the Sedition Act is wrong because it goes against the First Amendment, okay, the Bill of Rights, freedom of speech in the press. And so, John, bless your heart, you got a great wife, love her, she's about peace and love, okay, you went against the Constitution, okay, and it was for political purposes, not for the betterment of the country. So that's why most historians have a problem with the Sedition Act. And arguably it was his worst decision as president. All right, more things with the Sedition Act. So again, there's debate about this in Congress, and the Dem Rep named Matthew Lyon had a heated debate with a Federalist, and eventually he spits in the face of a Federalist representative. Eventually, Matthew Lyon does go to jail for 4 months, okay, for violating the Sedition Act, for talking bad about the government. And he wrote this about Adams. Matthew Lyon said, his unbounded thirst for ridiculous pomp, foolish adulation, and self-avarice. Ooh, Mufasa, that sounds pretty mean, right? So anyway, he didn't care. He spoke up, did not like the president. I got a little visual for you. I have absolutely no idea. I mean, I kind of know what's going on, but if you figure out, you let me know. But essentially, it's conflict in the House of Representatives between Matthew Lyon and the Federalists, okay? Looks like he's holding a giant icicle. All right, we'll move on then to some other history. Hurry up, Beamer. All right, the last thing, second to last thing, are 2 resolutions passed in response to the Alien and the Sedition Act. So I'm going to slide me out of the way here. So the Dem Reps, in response to the Alien Sedition Acts, which they hate because it silences them, they passed 2 resolutions called the Virginia and the Kentucky resolutions. Okay. James Madison wrote the Virginia, and Jefferson wrote the Kentucky. Do not worry about remembering which wrote which. Just please know that Madison and Jefferson hated the Alien Sedition Acts, and so in response, they wrote these resolutions or these documents, and they were criticizing the Alien and especially the Sedition Act. So both Madison and Jefferson stressed the compact theory, which they believe that the national government came out of the states. The states created the national government. The states essentially have the power over the national government. This is a big issue in a push. And so what Jefferson and Madison wrote in these resolutions is that the remedy to these laws is for states to nullify the laws, to not follow them, to forget the laws and say, as the states, we are not going to follow them. And this is a big deal. This kind of goes at the issue of states' rights versus federal government, right? And the Democratic Republicans were very states' rights. The Federalists were a stronger federal government. So what happens then with these resolutions? Like, what is the result of it, right? So they believe the individual states were the final judges and refused to accept the laws. So does this happen? Do other states listen to Jefferson and Madison? Do they refuse to accept the Alien and Sedition Act? And what happened is everybody backed down, okay? Only Virginia and Kentucky joined the cause of the resolution and supported it. But eventually, nothing happened, okay? So the states backed down, and so the resolutions were just pieces of paper. They had no power. Okay, ooh, Holly Beamer got a text. All right, so it did not work. So I think the key thing, though, that we need to know is that nullification is an important term. This is the first time that nullification becomes an issue in the United States. And it's going to come back later. States are going to say, we don't have to follow that law. We are going to nullify it. And they will point to the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions as the first time it happened. And it's really going to be an issue when we get to the War of 1812. We'll talk about this later. I hate South Carolina. I'm sorry if you're from there. The nullification crisis. And then eventually the Civil War. This is going to be used to kind of support Southern secession as well. All right, the last thing I want you to do is we have the Federalists versus the Dem Reps. I have the chart here. And I have these listed, like these characteristics of the two groups. So I'm going to put up the list here in a second, let you look at it. I'm not going to read through all of it because you can certainly read through it yourself. These are the characteristics of both the Federalists and the Democrat Republicans. You can pause this if you want to write this down or make a note of it. I'm not going to go over all of this, but clearly there's big division between the two groups. And eventually it leads to a lot of conflict in the United States. Especially it leads to the Unofficial War with France, and then eventually the Alien Sedition Acts and the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions. All right, I got to go. Fire up, go Eagles. I think I get this done in less than 17 minutes. Let's go.